Welcome, listeners of Illusion, to Temporal Discussion, the episode-by-episode Nightmare retrospective podcast. I'm Martin Harder, and I am deeper than the deepest ocean.
And I'm Martin O'Doney, and Martin Harder is shallower than the shallowest source of water. Nah, tripped you.
Today we're looking at Series 3, Episode 9. Shirley Valentine was still topping the box office, and Jive Bunny's That's What I Like is still the number one single. As I've said before, I like this single, but I have to admit, it didn't deserve to be holding on to the number one for this long.
Indeed, it didn't. I think we've pretty much registered my views on it, and I'm happy that we've finally come to a point of agreement on it, in fact.
And now time turns, the recording light burns, time out is gone, the podcast is on.
Oh, I wish you wouldn't creep in like that. It's bad enough worrying about Merlin and his disappearing act, without mass manifestations from another time bursting in without warning. Still, now that you're here, you'd best make yourself comfortable. For time out is all but gone, and the quest is about to begin. So, who carries the challenge, eh? Don't say you've forgotten already. Then I suppose you'll need a reminder. From Midlands came 4 strapping boys, who then, beset by dungeon ploys, proceeded downward, ever brave their quest to free a dungeon maid. Along their road they met a chum with kilt and sword and mighty tum. But though he fought deep magic off, he fled before the goblin horn. They left him up in level 2 and perished in Morgana's room. Now Kelly's maids from Norfolk see if they can Kelly's heroes be. They found the dice and made their throw. The question is, which way to go?
Oh my God, this is probably the all-time nadir. Boys' toys, that's okay. Brave and maid. Chum and tum, which is okay but childish. Off and horn. To and room.
At least that's relatively close. Off and horn is nowhere near.
C and B and throw and go are fine, but too easy. So that for me, oh God, fully half the rhymes are fake. That is 2 out of 10. I give that. And that's just for showing up. Oh my goodness, that is terrible. You must agree.
Yeah, he gets an award for attendance. Sort of.
Maybe I should make it 1 out of 10 then, just for showing up. Oh God, no, that is dismal. That one. That is truly one of the all-time worst.
He gives 1 out of 10 based on the fact there are words in it.
Yeah, 1 out of 10 for showing up and 2 out of 10 for accomplishing the mighty achievement of putting the dungeon ditty into words. Yes, that's 2 out of 10 is perfectly justified. Now you put it that way.
Oh God, this episode though.
Yeah, it does rather set up an awful lot of that's to follow.
Walk straight through the door in front of you.
The box.
She can't see.
I can't see a door.
The previous episodes ended just as the new quest was starting up.
I genuinely don't like punching down, especially when there's kids involved. But this team is one of the slowest-witted teams in a line of slow-witted teams.
Yes.
It starts off straight away in the dice room. Normally we put a jingle in here because it's the dice room. It's not much to say about it. But there really are some massive errors of judgment that deserve to be highlighted.
Rather than a jingle, we need a dirge. We need something played on a French horn at the end of the war. Exactly. This dice room is where Nightmare goes to die. And that's really meaningful in a show like Nightmare, of course. The thing that is inexcusable about this, though, is it shouldn't be physically possible to make a mess of this opening chamber. But somehow they still manage to.
It starts off bad and it gets worse.
Enjoy it while it's bad because it's all downhill from here.
They tell her to just walk through the door in front of her. She can't see the door in front of her. There is a table in front of her. They don't think to just guide her around until Traegard basically tells them that she can't see.
If they haven't mastered that requirement when dungeoneering, they are not going to master any of them. As you say, we shouldn't slap down.
Oh, this team make it difficult.
Yeah.
There is a shield symbol above the central door, which of course denotes that that's the way that they expect you to go.
That's the best path, yes.
What do this team do, Martin?
They go through the door on the right. And they go through a door that has no symbol above it, and therefore is not the best one for starting their quest. As I say, it shouldn't be possible to make a mess of this chamber, but they do. And obviously, the next room they arrive in isn't going to be a very safe one.
Where am I? You're in a room, and to your right there is a door, and there's a bomb, and it's now being...
This chamber is mined out fast
Kelly.
or perish.
And we haven't played this jingle for a while, have we?
We haven't had to.
No. Hello, listeners of Illusion. It was at this point in my editing that I realised we haven't had this jingle for so long that I've lost it. I have lost the bomb room jingle of all things. So there was a mad dash, a bit of panic, almost an autistic meltdown, which I managed to stave off. But I re-recorded the the bomb room jingle, and to be honest, I think it's better. But let's see what you think. Here it is.
Bum 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 room. Bum 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 room. Bum 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 room. Bum 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 bum. It's gonna go bum 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 room. Bum 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 room. Be fast on your feet before your life falls to please. Bum room. Bum 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 room.
I hesitate to say it, but I'm actually quite pleased to see a bomb room. I've kind of missed them.
It's nostalgic, isn't it? In a show about nostalgia, that's everything. The bomb, we got this lovely deep purple colour again, or rather, not actually again, so we haven't really seen it in quite this particular depth of purpleness before, which actually makes it rather nice to look at, and therefore totally wrong for a bomb room. But we'll make do with it. We need a bit of comfort, to be honest, because it's painful watching the task, struggling to master the art of turn left and walk forward.
Now, in fairness, this isn't the worst bomb room performance we've ever seen from a team, but it's pretty close.
It is in the top three anyway. It is terrible. I'm already thinking Akash and chums. I don't want to be horrible to the girls. I'm sure they've grown up to be lovely, lovely women. This must be a treasured memory for them, and I don't want to spoil it for them.
We should refresh people's memories of who we're dealing with here as well. We've got Dungeoneer Kelly, and she's joined by advisors Emma, Sarah, and Tammy.
Why are you bothering? Everybody will have forgotten as soon as we moved on to the next chamber.
And they're all from Seaport Link, Norfolk.
Oh, them! Says 3/4 of the country. Hello, Emma. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Kelly. We like you, really. We're just saying it as we see it. Anyway, they do actually get out just before the bomb explodes. We're now in an era when the fuse doesn't grow back, so I imagine the production team are wetting themselves in terror. They're going to have somebody fall out of the quest in the second room. That's the price to pay for choosing the wrong door, of course.
Of course, the way they deal with it now is to not light the bomb until they're literally just about to leave the room.
Yeah, which looks better at least.
But they do barely make it out before the bomb explodes.
And that takes them to a dwarf tunnel where they're told not to stop.
Walk forward.
Don't stop, Kelly. Whatever you do, the path ahead seems open, but I think I detect something behind you, and it appears to be gaining.
Kelly, walk quicker. Come on, Kelly. Where am I? You're in a room with 2 doors in front of you, and one to the right and one to the left.
Traeger says that there's something chasing them, but we never really find out what. And when they arrive in the next chamber, which happens to be the lair of the dreaded car, they describe it to Kelly and for some reason completely fail to mention the massive pit in the centre of the room.
I think the thing that was chasing them was probably the ogre. I think that's probably established at the end of level 1, sort of half spoilers there. Yeah, it's a bit like a tourist trying to describe the Empire State Building and not mention the fact that it's very, very, very tall. The pit is the room.
Yeah.
it is its defining feature, apart from the 4 doors. The pit is just about the room itself. Not describing the pit when you describe this room is missing something.
There's food on the floor right in front of the pit, and when they pick it up...
Pick up the food and put it in
Now you really must hurry, for this is the lair of
Move back! Move back!
Once the snake appears, the advisors almost walk Kelly into the pit before she escapes through the right-hand door.
It's not exactly Olympic gymnastic coordination again, is it? In all fairness, I've actually seen worse, but there's just no need to panic because in the cold light of day, it is very obviously just a recording of a snake.
Where am I? You're in a room with a door at the other end, but we've got to take you across, but there's quite a lot of paving stones missing, so listen carefully.
Tricky. The floor in here appears none too safe, team. You're going to have to guide Kelly with great care, but I must warn you, you've still got to be quick.
We should give them kudos. They do actually do well here.
I was actually about to say that. It's we're in danger of seeing this team as worse than they are because they started so awkwardly. But this one, they actually handle rather impressively smoothly. I think it's comes rather out of nowhere. And it's actually more difficult to keep your cool in this one because in the past, when people have completed the crossing over the narrow pathway, the pathway behind them stays intact. But here, the paving slabs disappear as you step off them. I think we should give them kudos here because they actually do rather a good job of this one, I think.
Yeah, they're a little slow on the first part, but when they reach the diagonal part, they position Kelly so far from the edge of the paving slab that she practically has to do the splits to make it across. But she does make it across.
Yeah, and the rest is very, very smooth, very quick. She's clearly a girl with long legs, which immediately means you can afford to keep her away from the edge and still completely crossing onto the next slab. So, why not use that? It's safer than shuffling them right to the edge of the slab and risking them stepping over the side. So, yeah, we'll give them a couple of points for this one. It's the first time they've impressed, but they've done it better, I would say, than any previous team has handled that chamber in this form.
Walk forward quickly. Where am I? You're in a room with a table with some food on it in the middle of the room, and to your right is a door, to your left is a window. Kelly, walk forward. Can you see the table? Yeah. Go round to the back of the table.
Objects here, and not, of course, unguarded. But first, get the food while you can. You'll need it for what you're going to face.
I've taken the pear. Yeah. Right.
Intruder, thief, cave goblin. All this belongs to Golgara. Turn and face me.
I like the way they're really getting a move on here. The riddles are really short and quick. The intro, Golgara appears as soon as the food is knapsacked, so they're wasting no time getting into the riddle contest.
Hello listeners of Illusion. By now you're probably used to me coming on and complaining about audio issues, and this time was quite a big one. So what we usually do when we record is we record 3 separate tracks. That's one with my voice, one with Mr. Adoni's voice, and one with both of us on it. Now, both the 2 separate tracks, the one with my voice and then the one with Mr. Adoni's voice, for some reason really fucked up around this point. It became very crackly and jumpy and just couldn't use them. So we're having to resort to using the track that has both of us on from this point, which does mean there's going to be sections where we talk over each other, and I apologise for that. I really don't like it, but it's the best I can do at the moment. I'm really, really sorry.
Anyway, let's get the first one. It is written, who is the stronger, the warrior or the scribe? The answer is, of course, the scribe, because the pen is mightier than the sword.
Credit where credit's due. There is some decent lateral thinking going on here.
They realise that there's something about these riddles that's got a subtext to them, and they spot it. Unfortunately, they carry that subtext too far, as we shall see shortly. The second riddle: which is the easier to carry, a lead vase or a feather in the wind? Now, you can quibble over this one. The answer is lead vase, and they get it right. The reason given by Golgaric is, how do you catch a feather in the wind? Of course, the question is, at what point did you pick up the feather? Did you pick up the feather before the wind started blowing?
Yeah, because
Then it becomes very easy to carry a feather in the wind.
But if you've already picked it up, it's not in the wind. Okay, it might be blown by the wind.
It might be
Anything.
if you're holding it between your fingers, and but the fairy bit is still sticking out. It's still getting blown around by the wind.
Maybe. Still easier to carry a lead vase.
What if the lead vase is 350 kilograms?
Yeah, and they used to drink from vases back then. If you drank from that, you'd die of lead poisoning.
A lot of people didn't know it back in medieval times, so So I think that's well, they were given the truth anyway, so we'll let them get away with it. But I think that's a very, very dubious riddle. And the next one is the one that we've discussed quite a bit, the Great Double Bluff riddle. But it's the reason Golgaric is my favourite war monster, because he shows a real sense of humour and of mischief here that earlier war monsters really lacked. Which is deeper, the ocean or a saucer of water? And the team...
They do think about it, don't they?
Yeah, but they decide the first two answers have been counterintuitive, so they decide to go with the assumption this one's counterintuitive. But there's nothing to indicate that at all.
They give the answer a saucer of water.
Falsehood. Of course the ocean is deeper.
Trick question.
I love the little chuckle you get from Golgaric
Yeah.
after that. The delight.
But a score of 2 does grant them passage. He tells the team that the quest is for the shield. He also tells them that she is a strange rose, but a rose may please her. And that the first step is the hop. On the table are a rose, a bar of gold, and a red crayon.
Fair bit of information there from him, didn't they, for two riddles? But it wasn't a negative clue.
I still abide by Martin H's rule of the dungeon, which is if an object seems out of place, it's probably the right one.
I would say so, yeah, in most circumstances.
The team know to take the rose from the clues, and Kelly suggests that they take the gold so that they can use it for a bribe. With no clues to the contrary, the team agree with her and guide her out. But rather than turning her around, they walk her awkwardly backwards until she's in line with the door, before sidestepping her out. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's weird, but again, you could say they're thinking laterally, almost literally laterally, given the sidestepping around. Yeah, well, I don't mind it. I'm happy to let that off. It's accurate manoeuvring, and that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Where am I? You're sort of like on the edge of a cliff thing, but if you keep on walking forward, you'll be okay.
Warning team, a giant arachnid. Its behavior is unpredictable, but it can be deadly.
Bit of a line flub from Hugo, and an incorrect statement. He says that the arachnid can be unpredictable.
No, it can't. It always looks like it's politely waiting at the traffic lights for the cars going across the way when it pauses there in front of the dungeon. After you, on you go, on you go, on you go. Come on, come on. I can almost picture the spider beeping a horn, but unpredictable? No.
This is shaping up to be quite a nostalgic episode, though, isn't it? Because we haven't seen the arachnid for a while now.
Yeah, it's this was I think it was in the last episode of season 2, wasn't it? This one.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's exactly the same recording and it's exactly the same movements. So I'm sorry, Traegard. It's good of you to try to convince us, but no, it's not unpredictable at all.
As usual, it waits patiently for Kelly to walk past before moving on.
As I say, this is a spider that's been very, very carefully trained in the Green Cross Code, and I think we should applaud it for its good manners and its proper sense of being a responsible pedestrian.
Was the Green Cross Code was the one with Darth Vader, wasn't it?
It was. Dave Prowse was the guy.
You must be out of your tiny little minds. And he didn't even get to use his own voice for that, did he?
No, he didn't. So it's actually rather an amusing story about that. He actually got the part, and he actually had to film the adverts
Yeah.
at the same time as they were filming Star Wars. So he had to ask George Lucas for 2 weeks off. So while they were filming loads of Darth Vader scenes, so they could go and dress up as this ridiculous superhero in a mince-coloured costume, telling kids how to cross the road safely. But it worked. I mean, you got to say this thing about it. It was actually a very good thing that he did, and the Green Cross Code worked.
Yeah.
Traffic accidents involving children plummeted after the Green Cross Code commercials started being used. So you can't argue with it.
No. I mean, David Lerner actually worked with David Prowse, didn't he, on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
It was the 5th episode of the TV version.
Yes,
Prowse
played
played the bodyguard of Hot Black Desiato. Hot Black Desiato is this major rock star across the galaxy, and they needed somebody really, 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 really tall and incredibly well built, to sort of really underline how much taller the bodyguard is than Ford Prefect.
I'm the guy that's telling you to beat it.
I'm the guy what's telling you to beat it before it gets beaten for you.
That was it.
It has to be said, I don't think they chose the correct filming angle for that scene. They did it from slightly below, so it actually makes Ford look taller than he really is. So you don't quite get this towering effect that you get if they started sort of level with Ford's head, David Dixon's head, I should say, and then you get the emphasis that it's all the way up there when you get to the top of Dave Prowse's head. So I think they might have filmed that at a slightly different angle, and it would have probably worked a bit better.
Where am I? You're in a corridor kind of thing, and there are 4 doors, 2 to your right.
Goblin alert! Reavers in the upper level, get out quickly!
Oh yes, it's the great corridor, the catacombs. But it disappoints time after time. Trigger talks it up, but it just ain't got the stuff. And yes, that was a virtual ride.
It's the gloomy, atmospheric version of the corridor today. There's goblins lurking at the far end, and the team are a little indecisive about which way to go. They eventually settle on going left, ignoring the adventurous code, and guide Kelly out.
Right, so they went right at the beginning of their quest when they had a clear indication that they shouldn't. Now, when there's no indication, and therefore they should go right, they go left. This is the point where you're taking lateral thinking too far. Sorry again, girls. Those goblins in the corridor are totally a separate recording again, by the way.
Turn left. Right, left.
Quickly!
Walk forwards. Where am I? You're in a room, and and to your right is a door with a skeleton head floating up and down in it. And there's a door in front of you and to the left, and beyond there is kind of like a valley.
Hurry, team. In the narrow confines, the goblins will have your scent with ease. You need to get into open space to stand a chance of losing them.
Okay, we're going to have an argument now, aren't we?
Well, not quite yet.
Not quite, okay.
Kelly has reached the entrance to the Vale of Banburn, or Vanburn, and before anybody starts thinking I'm pronouncing it wrong, we will go into that in the next area. There's a haunting blocking off the exit on the right, and as Kelly makes her way to the door ahead, a second haunting appears to the left. I assume that's to stop them from making another last-second decision to go off in a completely random direction.
36 seconds to walk to the door at the other side of the room. Painfully slow, isn't it? But, I'm almost thinking, why didn't they do that in the dice room? Just have a haunting over the 2 doors.
Where am I? You're in a valley, and there's a person walking across the far end, and there are some waterfalls, and there are quite a lot of people walking around. Kelly.
Onward, team, onward, or the goblin scouts will be upon you. Avoid shortcuts, though. Stick to the path, whatever you do.
So anyway, they enter the Vale of Vanburn.
Nope, they enter the Vale of Banburn.
They go into the Vale of Vanburn, as you say. Go on.
Okay, so a little background for this. Every time I write Banburn on the script, Mr. O here corrects me by saying Van Burn. This is how Velda pronounces it during the encounter with Team 3 of this season. However, Nightmare.com, Interactive Nightmare, David Rowe's website, and his book, The Art of Nightmare, all refer to the Vale as Banburn. In fact, according to its entry in the Nightmare Lexicon, the name given to this area during production is thought to have been Death Valley, which actually makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Yeah, than the one in in level 2, yeah.
This is apparently based on the file names used by David Rowe on his website, and to further evidence this, the multi-section cave system that came to be known as Death Valley has the file name Death Valley 2.
I shan't make too much comment for now, except to say I have never heard it pronounced Banburn except by you. David Rowe might be getting some of his details actually from Nightmare.com. It occurs to me. We'd have to ask him about that.
That's very true.
And an Interactive Nightmare might also just be copying from Nightmare.com as well.
And looking back on it, he did, when he was on the podcast, he did say Van Burn as well.
Yeah. So I'm not convinced about this. It's it could be that all the sources are just copying each other there. When listening on the soundtrack, not just in that first scene with Velda, whenever I hear anybody saying it, they do. It definitely sounds to me like they're using the letter V for Victor at the beginning of it. I've never heard it ever sound like they're using the letter B. I'll look into it further before I come to my own conclusion. But
listeners, we want to know your opinions. Is it Van Burn or is it Banburn?
What the f*** it got to do with them? I'm on the podcast. I outrank them.
I make the podcast. I outrank you.
Authoritarian.
Yeah, but leave a comment. Let us know which one you think, which one you prefer, Van Burn or Banburn.
Kelly, walk forward. Stop.
Should we take it straight across the glass or?
No, avoid shortcuts. No.
Right.
Kelly, turn to your left.
Despite Traegar's advice to stick to the path, advisor Sarah considers guiding Kelly across what she somehow thinks is grass and not sort of very obvious swamp. Fortunately, though, the other advisors intervene. They're not all daft, okay? They're not all of them.
To be fair, it doesn't look like swamp.
It doesn't look like grass. It does not look like grass. Grass would be sort of have tiny little marks on it to make it look like tufts.
It looks as much like grass. It looks as much like grass as it does quicksand.
What are red houses made of? Red bricks. Yeah. What are blue houses made of?
Blue bricks.
What are yellow houses made of?
Yellow bricks.
What are purple houses made of?
Purple bricks.
What are green houses made out of?
Glass.
Yes, nearly got you. Yes, this manoeuvring is very unimpressive here. At one point, they almost seem to be turning back to go to the beginning of the path. No. What part of the only way is onward do you not understand?
So onto the second section of the valley, there's some food on the path, which gets knapsacked.
The scouts seem slightly confused, but they won't stay that way. Come on, this way, quickly.
Keep walking forward. Walk forward, Kelly. Stop.
No, keep coming, keep coming.
Walk.
Forward.
Finally, Kelly reaches the end of the path. The Lady Velda is president, as she often is, and seems wary of the Dungeoneer.
Lady Velda is president, as she often is.
I said present.
You did not.
The Lady Velda is president, as she often is. President.
Shovel?
Do it again.
Finally, Kelly reaches the end of the path. The Lady
I wish it was the end of the road.
The Lady Velda, or Belda, is present.
Victory! Victory! Queen Victoria.
The Lady Velda is present and seems wary of the Dungeoneer. One of the advisors mistakes her for a Native American.
Yeah, let's not even go there.
Yep.
Oh, God, goodness me, the trouble that might have caused.
Hold! Stand your ground, woman thing. This path leads to the realm of the Elfinkin. You may not take it.
Noticing the goblins, Velda springs into action.
Oh! Elf boots! How did those darklings get in here? Quickly, over here against the cliff. Hurry! It's your life I save! Elvandis! Feel the heat! Feel the pain! To darkness go, foul elven bane! Get out of here!
I do love these incredibly fake visual effects.
Feel the heat!
Feel the
pain!
To darkness go!
Foul elven
bane!
bane!
Belzer
I'll
forces
work
the goblins to retreat before turning her attention to Kelly.
You're obviously no goblin. Otherwise, they wouldn't be chasing you. So, you better introduce yourself.
I'm Kelly, engineer.
Oh, Kelly. I must say, you humans are awfully willing to hand over your real names. Elves wouldn't dream of giving their real names, for with the gift goes the power of calling, which means we must come. However, you may call me Velda, but understand that is not my summoning name. To business. What token do you carry to prove that you are an elf friend?
Show her the rose.
The rose. Yeah, the rose.
It is a fair token indeed. No one would carry this instead of a weapon if their feet were on the dark path.
No one would carry this instead of a weapon if their feet were on the dark path. I would say if they have a brain, they would definitely carry a weapon instead and could still not be on the dark path because, you know, if I'm on a journey through Danish territory, I'm hardly going to defend myself from an armed brigand by throwing a rose at him.
Oh, I don't know. Have you seen the thorns on those roses? Wow.
Oh, yeah. They'll cut through heavy armor, no bother.
Velda laments that Kenny may not enter the elf path, but offers the spell Transform. She warns the team not to waste it and to remember that the further they are from her, the weaker it becomes.
Which is actually two contradictory bits of advice if you think about it. Interestingly, that spell, or another version of that spell, became a critical detail in the first quest of season 4 when Hordris gives the team the spell called Transformation, which is a very, very long-winded way of just saying transform. And that was to have consequences. But we'll come to that when we get there. It's not that far off now, is it? We're into the second half of season 3.
Velda exits, and through more awkward guiding, the team talk over each other and guide Kelly through the exit on the right.
Where am I?
You're in a room, Kelly, with 2 doors in front of you, one to your right, one to the left, with portcullises over them. And just a little bit to your right is a person sitting on a stool.
Oh, hello, dearie. Here, look what's here, Festus. Wake up, Festus, you stupid mutt. That's right. Oh, look, dearie, he's ever so pleased to see you. His tail's wagging. All 5 of them. Oh, and I do believe he's got tears of joy in his eyes. Well, perhaps not, but his mouths are watering.
This is actually the same chamber as the lair of cars that were in earlier, but this time there's no pit, and there's rather a lot of iron.
So it's kind of like a surprise that they don't describe it as a chamber with 4 doors and a pit this time.
You're absolutely right. Not funny, but absolutely right.
No.
So
I'll fix that.
We've got
in the
Mrs.
edit.
Grimwald here, which is
I'll make myself
good.
funny.
Nothing on this podcast is funny. It's a serious business. When I tell jokes, it's for serious reasons. Mrs. Grimwald is here, and that's always good because she can be very amusing and very sinister, and she's being particularly sinister today. In fact, this is probably her at just about her nastiest.
Yeah,
I would say she's not making any attempts to sort of do a deal with the Dungeoneer. She's just flat out trying to feed the Dungeoneer to Festus.
Yeah,
she usually weighs things up first before she decides to do that. If she gets nothing out of the Dungeoneer, then she'll send them to Festus. But no.
She goes to bring Festus over, and after quite a bit of prompting from Traegard, the team casts a spell.
Try something.
Kelly, can't see anything by the stool.
I think you're in danger.
Go spellcasting, go on.
Got transform. TRANSFORM.
It's spellcasting.
Joy!
Done it.
That's it. Can't you see what's come to dinner? That's right, your dinner's come to dinner. I bet you thought you was
do it
extinct,
again.
eh, Pet? I bet you thought there was anything like you before. Oh dear. Oh my goodness me. Oh, you have grown. Oh my dear. Oh, what have they been feeding you on?
I think it's another one of those ones where they're reluctant to use it because they've only just received it. And so they've been told don't waste it, but they end up having to use it in the very next chamber.
Yeah.
So I can understand them being a bit hesitant about using that one on this occasion.
Mm.
But at the same time, what else could they do?
Kelly having transformed into a huge knight and having scared Festus off. Mrs. G lets slip that the second step is the diamond. She runs off, and Drago points out that all the doors are still locked, but he doubts that it'll stop Kelly in her current state. The team guide her to the door on the right, and as she reaches the portcullis, it disintegrates, and she walks through.
Yeah.
I had this vision of her walking through the wall like Nanny from Duckula.
Nanny, Master Duckula, with your hot cocoa and chocky bickies.
Oh, good. Come in, Nanny. Nanny, why can't you come through the door like everyone else?
Oh, the door! Oh, I'd forgotten all about it. Hang on.
I'm very sorry, my lord.
I might have been killed.
I know, sir.
And I haven't paid the electricity bill from the last time you brought me back to life.
Yes, sir,
Ah, got it right this time. Come in. Nanny, now look what you've done.
Oh, Ducky Boos, you said to come through the door.
I give up. I just give up.
I'm rather interested in exactly how they created this effect. I'm assuming that the actor wearing the armor is stood in a different part of the studio on a separate feed of the camera, and Kelly is sort of cut out of the scene by putting up some kind of blue blockage or something, and then the knight is projected in its place. But it means that when Mrs. Grimwald is reacting to the knight, she's probably not really seeing him at all.
Yeah, I never really thought about that.
It is an interesting trick to do. Well, I wouldn't say it'd be one of the more difficult tricks to pull off. It's quite imaginative, you know. Give them that.
Walk forwards. Where am I? You're in a room.
Ah, Kelly, good to see you back to your old size again.
You're in a room and there's a table with something on it.
As Drago says, Kelly is now back to her old self. This is the well chamber that leads to level 2, except there's no well. Instead, there's what appears to be a lectern with some parchment paper upon it. The team begin to guide Kelly towards it, and a green skull haunting manifests by the doorway that she entered from. Upon reaching the lectern, Kelly notices there's nothing on it but blank paper. Then suddenly...
Anything else? Is there anything?
Oh dear, you've just met Mrs. Grimwald. Well, I'm afraid this is her husband, the ogre. I think we'd better draw a veil across this chamber, team. It's enough for you to know that Kelly is no longer with us, at least not in this time and place. If only you'd taken the crayon, you could have created a wellway and made your escape. But now I'd better return you to where Kelly is alive and kicking. Spellcasting. TISMISS. There you are, all together and all in one piece. Goodbye, Kelly, Emma, Tammy, and Sarah. You rode your luck, but in the end, your luck ran out.
Take me down to the path by the cliffs, give a die, get my scroll and my chin got dismissed. Oh, watching please take me home.
Maybe it wasn't such a good thing that Kelly was back to her old self. If she was still in that armor, she might have stood a chance. It's quite a good death scene, though. I quite like this death scene. The ogre is now being established as a real menace because he's explicitly got a kill under his belt here.
And he's upon them so quickly as well.
They're not doing anything in slow down mode to give the team a chance to do anything in response. Overall, what can we say about this team?
They got as far as they deserved.
Yeah, they're not good at manoeuvring. Lion's Head chamber apart. Not a great deal of personality or assertiveness. Possibly they were feeling a bit camera shy. Having said that, I have to say, I think there were times when they did show some ability. Not a huge amount of personality, but they did show lateral thinking. Probably worse teams than that have got to level 2 in the cold light of day. But yeah, end of level 1 is about fair for this lot. I wouldn't class this team as that bad. I think we've definitely seen worse ones. But for all that, they're not good.
We have definitely seen worse teams. And we are definitely going to see a worse team. This next team are often considered to be the worst team in the entire show. I would disagree, personally, but only just.
Enter, stranger. Greetings. I, of course, am Traegard. And you are whom?
Douglas Sargent from Weston-Super-Mare.
Your challenge is accepted, Douglas. But you cannot manage alone, so call your advisors now.
Derek, Matthew, Richard.
Who guides this dungeoneer?
Matthew Badman. Richard Davis. Derek Miller.
Nicely spoken. Well, let's hope you'll be able to talk your way out of trouble just as easily.
From the Eye Shield issue 17, the Eye Shield, if people don't know, was the Nightmare fanzine, which was a source of lots of information on the series. Teammate of Series 3, they gave them a score of half out of 10.
Okay, I have a lot of respect for Jake Collins' opinions, but I don't think we have to agree with every single one of them. But...
We will have a look at them and make our own opinions up, but from what I've watched, they're not good. They're really not good.
I don't disagree that they're not a particularly good team, but would you say they're widely held to be one of the worst ever? I haven't heard many people say that. It might be that they are widely held to be one of the worst teams ever.
So this next team take on the challenge consists of Dungeoneer Douglas and advisors Richard, Derek and Matthew. The team hail from Weston-Super-Mare. Matthew just looks as pleased as punch to be there, in direct contrast to David's serious, stoic look and tone. Traegard gives Douglas the knapsack and helmet, offers him the customary last chance to turn back, and sends him on his way. Just once I want someone to, say, actually, I don't really fancy it. Let's just go home.
Turn then, face the dungeon door, for time out is gone, the quest is on.
Where am I?
You're in a room, a big green room, and there's a sort of table in front of you, and it's got 3 sides, and there's a dice on there.
Yeah.
You see, team, it's one of the fundamental laws of the quest that most dungeon cells have 6 sides. So, by coincidence, does the common gaming dice. So to escape from this cell, you'll just have to take a gamble.
Welcome to the dungeon. This is season 3. Everything is still the same. Our talking is mundane. We try to make it seem random. Our dice is on the exact same number. We better play the game. We better play and never talk about it. So welcome to the dungeon.
That chamber is like watching golf.
The central door has a crown over it, and this is the door that the team choose.
So you see, they're not that bad.
Stop.
Where am I?
You're in a room, and there's a scorpion in there, and there's a door there in front of you, and you've got to get past the scorpion.
We've got the Spectral Scorpion Chamber as our first port of call on this quest.
The lighting in this room, it seems different today. Is it just me?
No, I've noticed it too. It's actually quite dazzling. Again, a bit with the bomb room, I'm not sure it's completely appropriate for what's there. I do dislike this scene though. Not the room itself under any kind of scheme, but this particular installment of the Spectral Scorpion is one of the worst ever in terms of the credibility of the chamber. So the Scorpion is of course a timing puzzle. Very simple timing puzzle. It was extremely simple in the first 2 seasons. You could just walk into the fireplace and just go around beyond the reach of the scorpion's tail. But the path has now been narrowed by removing those flagstones. But it should still be straightforward. But this team really make a dog's breakfast of it. When they're positioning Douglas to start his run past the scorpion, they're too cautious. They don't get him anywhere near enough to the path of the tail so that when he runs, he starts running with the tails drawn. But by the time he's actually reached level, the tail has unfurled again. But also, Douglas half loses balance on his way and actually passes through the pincer of the Spectral Scorpion.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this a little bit, because looking at this and looking back at Douglas's reactions in the antechamber, I'm convinced that he's neurodivergent. He seems to have a lot of trouble keeping eye contact in the antechamber.
That's noticeable. That may just be general shyness, of course.
Maybe, but
it's possible. That's possible.
Yeah, conditions such as autism also often go hand in hand with other conditions which could affect his walk, such as, for instance, cerebral palsy. There's one example. I don't know for sure. I'm just this is just my observations.
It's speculative. It's not impossible. He might just have slipped slightly. I can't really comment on that. I have no idea. It's an interesting suspicion, but there's not much evidence for it. What I would say is this iteration of the scene really does destroy any sense of threats the Spectral Scorpion had, because all of that contact between Douglas and the Scorpion does hardly any damage. He's definitely got hit by the tail, and he then walks into the pincer. So that's 2 contacts with deadly bits of the Scorpion. Therefore, he should surely be down to condition red. But in the end, he's right at the start of condition amber. He was already about halfway through green at the point when the tail made contact with him. That means that 2 contacts have taken half a life force grade out of him. Whenever you're in that chamber, just walk through the Scorpion. You might just as well. It's not going to do you any real harm.
Douglas survives the obstacle, even though it has taken a little bit out of his life force. The team then guide him through to a dwarf tunnel.
Hurry, Douglas. Temporal disruption approaching. Faster now, or a time shift will trap you in the corridor. Too late. That's brought progress to a halt, I'm afraid. Well, there's not much point in talking to you lot either. Might as well talk to myself. Oh, I see that you're still here. Well, you won't be for long. It's back to your own more tedious time for you lot, until time turns and you can join us once more. Until it does, just remember, keep your feet on the right path and don't, whatever you do, look behind you.
So it's been a reasonably entertaining episode, hasn't it?
It's an okay episode. It's not really doing a great deal we don't see elsewhere, though. Sort of a bit like his trip to Swindon. Nothing does any actual harm, but nothing really stands out either.
There's the Saucer of Water riddle.
Yeah, there is that. I'd say that it does have a very good war monster scene, which is definitely some way above the rest of the episode. It was a pretty scary death scene as well, with the ogre arms all the way around before the life force clock ran out. It's got its redeeming qualities, but overall it does feel slightly generic, but a good scene for Golgarak.
Well, I am going to miss him when he goes. We're over halfway through series 3 now.
That was the first episode of the second half of season 3. We've yet to really be that impressed with season 3, haven't we? Kind of surprised. This is definitely a season where the whole is probably greater than the sum, and individual episodes feel less interesting than the individual episodes in season 2.
It does get better. We do have some cracking episodes coming up.
There's some good stuff that comes up with Team 11, I think it is.
You can follow us on Twitter. We're at Nightmare Pod.
If you want to support the podcast, we're Nightmare Pod on Patreon.
Speaking of Patreon, here's a shout out to Keepers of the Book of Quests, Peter Pulsford and David N. Rabbit.
Advisors, Benjamin Bloom, Peter Sidon, Dave Thompson, and our newest supporter, welcome aboard, Stephen Whelan, you star!
And of course, Dungeoneer Peter Corridge.
Support us on Patreon at Dungeoneer level or above to get your name mentioned on the podcast.
Higher level perks also receive merchandise, have access to exclusive episodes, and if you pledge as a Keeper of the Book of Quests, we'll even offer you a chance to be a guest on the podcast.
Our website is nightmarepod.co.uk.
If you're looking for Temporal Discussion merchandise, including t-shirts, stickers and other products, it's at nightmarepod.redbubble.com.
And you can email us at podcast@nightmarepod.co.uk.
And just keep telling yourself, it's only a podcast.
Isn't it?
Weston.